It's mixing oil and water. It does not work. It's never worked. Why would Europe be any different? As white Englishmen cannot become a minority. It is wrong if the white French population become a minority in France. Hotels are being filled with criminals from overseas who have a rape mindset culture. And the time is right now. And we're showing this in Great Britain. Our movement is showing this. Now is our moment. Now is our time. We won't have success in 10 years. This has to come to a head. Because if it doesn't come to a head now, we lose. You lose. You won't be able to deal with this problem. Something has to happen, and Europe needs to unite. European patriots need to unite. Enough is enough.
Bonjour à tous, bienvenue sur VA+. Aujourd'hui, nous recevons Tommy Robinson, militant et activiste identitaire et anti-immigration, autant influent que critiqué au Royaume-Uni. La traduction de votre livre Ennemi d'État est publiée aux éditions Magnus. So, you were born in 1982 in Luton. Has the city changed? Have you personally witnessed the change you now denounce across the UK?
When I was born in Luton, there was one mosque. There's now 45. White English are now a minority. The demographical change in my town has not been for the good, not been for the better. Less freedom, hostility, violence, rape, terrorism. Luton was the launch pad for the 7/7 bomb plot that murdered 52. It was the launch pad for the fertiliser bomb plot. It was the launch pad for the Stockholm bomber who travelled to Stockholm and committed a suicide bombing. Al Brigadani was a suicide bomber from Luton who travelled to Iraq and blew himself up in a lorry. Abu, I can't remember his name, I grew up, he's my age growing up. He died fighting for ISIS. There was a family of 12 who travelled, who all perished, who went to join ISIS from Luton. The Luton army sent a bomb plot, the fertiliser bomb plot, the plot after plot after plot. You get the point, yeah?
Yep.
From a small town with 100,000 Muslims. And all we see is terrorism and jihad. So my upbringing, my cousin was raped by the rape gangs, which they now call grooming gangs. I've seen it all. So I don't talk about what I read. I talk about a life experience of growing up around a hostile and violent Islamic community. So yeah, Luton has changed, just like Paris has changed, just like Lyon has changed, just like many of your French cities have changed. Not for the better. I don't think there's any French citizen, just like there's no British citizen, who can sit and say that the country's gone in the good direction, that it's getting better. Less safety, rape stats are through the roof across every European nation. I think 77% of your rapes in Paris last year were foreigners. When we say foreigners, we mean Islamic migrants.
So England, like you say, has been affected by major migration and societal shifts for many years. The UK appears more fractured and divided than ever. How do you explain this instability?
So the instability comes when you import people who do not wish to assimilate or integrate in any way, shape or form. They rather create their own ghettoized communities, very inward looking and very hostile and violent towards other communities. And then you have a government who then try to hide the crimes of this community. And the reason they hide the crimes of this community was because if the public were made aware for the last 30 years of the problems coming from mass open border immigration, then they would start looking up at the government because it's a policy failure of the government who have imported these people into our country. It's mixing oil and water. It does not work. It's never worked. 1,400 years of history we can look at to see that it doesn't work. There is no successful country in the world where Islam has ever gone as a minority and peacefully coexisted. It gets to a certain percentage, it then becomes violent, hostile, promotes the arm of the sword and jihad and takes over the nation. Why would Europe be any different? So we're experiencing that in Britain. We have a fragmented society. And then you have a government who appease and surrender. Our values change, our beliefs change, our culture changes. And we have 1,000 years of English Christian history and culture in England. And our government and the cowardice of leadership have decided to try and give it away and surrender it in 70 years.
Do you believe all immigration is problematic? And what place do you give to those immigrants who are integrated and employed?
My mother was an immigrant. So no is the answer on that front. I believe that in feasible numbers, if a country does need immigration, if they need supportive work, then that immigration can come from a country that has a similar culture and a similar belief system. As I said, my mum was from Ireland. I'm a proud Englishman. Many of my friends from Luton town, because of my experience, most of my friends are sons of immigrants. Be that Bulgarian, Italian, Irish, St. Lucian, Jamaican, Christian countries. We have integrated and assimilated and loved Great Britain. And there are many great examples of integrated migrant background communities. France is very different because all of your colonies were Islamic. Yeah. So you ain't going to have much success. So in my hometown of Luton, I can look at my school that I went to. We all got on great, apart from the Islamic community. So all of your non-white immigration pretty much into France is majority Muslim. So you're not going to have many good experiences. And I challenge any journalist, when they come to my hometown, there will not be friendship groups together. The whites will be with the blacks in Luton. We're like this, we're together. All of our friendship groups will have. So we have a different experience to some other French nations and European nations. So, but withstanding that, there still has to be a limit, because the demographical change, we as Englishmen, as white Englishmen, cannot become a minority, as we have in London. London is 33% white and English. That is wrong, fundamentally wrong. That cannot be a blueprint, like my hometown of Luton, cannot be a successful blueprint for every city in the UK. It would be wrong if Nigerian blacks become a minority in Nigeria. It would be wrong if Japanese become a minority in Japan. It is wrong if the white French population become a minority in France. It's wrong. And we have to stop sitting by and thinking it's acceptable. It's not acceptable. That doesn't mean we hate every migrant. It doesn't mean we hate the integrated communities. What it means is those integrated communities come to the successful nation of Great Britain, and it was successful because it was a majority white nation. It was Christian. That's why. So no, I don't want integrated and decent, hardworking migrants to have to leave, but I want non-assimilated failures of communities to be encouraged to leave. I want every illegal immigrant, every criminal, every threat to our nation, every jihadist, the 2 million Muslims, because that's how many want Sharia law in the UK. I want them to leave. I don't want hardworking, decent, law-abiding citizens to leave.
You recently mobilized hundreds of thousands of people during a demonstration in London. What did that mobilization represented for you?
So it was millions. It was the largest demonstration in British history. And it represented a coming together and a uniting of the kingdom. So 4 nations, 1 kingdom. We're all being invaded. We're not happy. Our women aren't safe. Our children aren't safe. We're having to pay for this. Hotels are being filled with criminals from overseas who have a rape mindset culture. In 2003, there were 8,800 rapes. In 2023, there were 88,000 rapes. Our women are being fed like lambs to the slaughter. Our daughters have been sacrificed. And we're fed up. And what it represented to the world was a message to the world that you scared this nation. You paralyzed us with fear. And we're no longer scared, and we're awake, and we're ready, and the fight back is on. There has been a successful far left revolution. They've broken down borders, they've broken down families, they've broken down the church, they've broken down what a man and woman is, they've broken down everything. They've succeeded. And now it's time for the counter-revolution. And we are the counter-revolution. That's what we represented. We represented a unity of British patriots who are telling our establishment and our government and our media and all of the unholy alliance of culprits to the demise of British men, the demise of patriotism and nationalism, that unfortunately for them, nationalism is the future, patriotism is the future, and we will be silent no longer. That's what it represented.
Spain is currently carrying out large-scale regularization of undocumented migrants. Do you see this as a failure for Europe?
The leader should be arrested. It should be criminal what he's doing, because he's making a decision based on they can come straight to your country. Yeah, he's making a decision that none of you have any influence on for criminals to be given full-time citizenship. The only answer for Spain is Vox, and Vox hopefully will undo this and deregulise them and send them back. So it's a threat. Let's talk about Spain. Since 2017, Spain's rapes have gone up 325%. Again, Spanish government are willing to sacrifice their women, the safety of their women, in order to import voters, because that's what they're doing. Import communities who are happy to be reliant on a left-wing state. And that's what they're doing. They're replacing Spanish voters, because Spanish voters have seen their errors, they've seen their ways. Vox are on the rise. patriotism, nationalism. There's only one answer to these problems, and they're trying to subvert the will of the people. Same as we're seeing in America, same as Canada, same as Australia, same as every Western nation.
We're speaking a little bit of social media and justice. We've talked about the grooming gang scandal, who recently drawn significant attention in Europe. What is your assessment of how the media and political authorities have handled this?
The media and the political authorities covered up the grooming scandal. They all conspired to hide the biggest crime and darkest stain on British history. Let's talk about what the grooming scandal was, because the word grooming doesn't do any justification to this. This is a rape jihad. This is groups of Muslim men specifically targeting non-Muslim children, kidnapping them, torturing them, terrorizing them. It's not about sexual gratification. It's about the destruction of what we hold dear, our daughters. And they were given full permission to do so by the British state, the authorities, the police, the government, through fear. Fear of a hostile and violent community, fear of upsetting them. The government, the police, every institution whose job it is to protect the vulnerable children, were willing to turn a blind eye and allow rape and torture and murder rather than upset the 6 million Muslims. The same reason in France, your government probably recognised the Palestinian state, because they've surrendered. The same reason your government, Macron, the weak, pathetic, coward leader, the same reason he decided to abandon the United States in their war against Iran. Same as Britain, because you've got 7 million, 8 million, 9 million Muslims, and you don't know what to do. You've surrendered. You do not know what to do. Now, France has a decision to make, as Britain has the decision to make. We can be weak. We can try and skirt around these issues and be careful with our words, or we can stand up and make sure that forever remains of France. If I visit France, I want to visit French culture. Last time I was in Paris, I didn't see any French culture. I saw a dominant, hostile, violent, aggressive migrant community who have destroyed what Paris is. And unless you want to become a different nation with a different culture, with a different identity, then you're running out of time, as are we. And we even make a decision that our forefathers made many times. They sacrificed and they gave, they bled and they fought. And right now, we're not even asking people to sacrifice, bleed and fight. We're asking them to speak. Speak truth to power. Islam is incompatible with Western democracy and freedom. And the time is right now. And we're showing this in Great Britain. Our movement is showing this. Now is our moment. Now is our time. We won't have success in 10 years. This has to come to a head. Because if it doesn't come to a head now, we lose. You lose. You won't be able to deal with this problem. Something has to happen. And Europe needs to unite. European patriots need to unite. Enough is enough. When is it going to be your moment? When are you going to say enough is enough? How many more rapes? How many more murders? How much more terrorism? How much more safety do you have to, and freedoms do you have to give up? How many more bollards? How many more Christmas markets cancelled? How many more? At which stage, how many more daughters have to be sacrificed for people to just say, do you know what? Now is the time. And now is that time in Britain. Now's the time. And the public realise that. So the cat is out of the box. They cannot, the dam has burst.
So indeed, for example, France broke its immigration record in 2025, issuing around 384,000 legal residence permits. Can France still control immigration, and by what means, in your view?
By the only means is by, whilst you still have a military that's on your side and you still have a police force that's on your side, because in 10 years' time you won't have, because of the infiltration of all of these groups. Your decision has to be made on behalf of the French people. If it was put to direct democracy and French people were asked if they have 384 people, the French people would have said no, I believe, in a majority, yeah? Just as the British public. So they're going against the interests of the majority population. They're replacing you as they're replacing us. Now, the only answer to that, illegal migrants, criminals, those who come illegally, need to be returned to their nations. And encouragement for those who are living off the French state, costing the French state, who don't love the French state, who don't want to participate in the French culture and identity, they need to be encouraged to leave. And that's it. And whether people realise this or not, this is the only place this is going. Yeah, remigration was a difficult conversation. It couldn't have been had 24 months ago. The shift has been huge. The Overton window has been obliterated. Yeah, people are angry. Now, we say all of this because we don't want conflict on the streets. But there's only one answer. There was only ever going to be one answer by British men eventually. We're not going to allow Sharia to be implemented in our country. We're not going to allow our daughters to not be safe to walk the streets. We're going to rise up. The answer is peacefully and through democratic process, but we're running out of time.
Not long ago, Elon Musk, who supports you, has raised the possibility of a civil war in the UK. Do you consider this scenario really credible?
30 to 40% of the public believe we're heading to civil war in research. Now, at some point, 30, 40% of the public start preparing for civil war. That's a dangerous and worrying thought. So unfortunately, whether we want fight or we want violence or not, it's coming to us. They're here. They're intent on violence. We have 40,000 British Muslims on a terrorist watch list. 40,000. It's just a numbers game. That 40,000 will become 80,000. And then what? You can't monitor them. You can't. We're in, whether we realise it or not, we're at war. There's a war here. They want war with us. Look at the terrorist attacks in France. Go through them all. The Black Can Theatre. Look at these crimes. How has that not been enough and it is enough? What stage is enough? Samuel Paty was at your school teacher being beheaded. The attacks in Lyon. All of your attacks. The Black Can Theatre. The amount of terrorism and jihad. And still, they give more. Still, they bring them in. Still, they build mosques. Still, Qatari money. Still, Iranian money. France needs to stand up. We want to unite Europe. I'm going to a conference after this, a Patriots Network. European patriots must unite. What we've replicated and doing in Great Britain, we've shown there is a pathway to wake the nations up. Within 24 months, we have millions on the streets. Okay? We believe that can be replicated across Europe. And we need to work together as European patriots.
So last year, the art conference brought together various strands of the British right in London. Concretely, what solutions are being proposed to restore the UK and remove Keir Starmer from power?
So, well, a cultural revolution can't happen from the educated. A cultural revolution has to happen from the streets and from the bottom, which is what the United Kingdom movement is. It's the forgotten, neglected people. And when you grow from the bottom up, which is what it must do. So I admire what ARC have been doing. I admire Jordan Peterson. In fact, we had close contact with Jordan Peterson in the formation of the United Kingdom movement. In the discussions that this has to come from the streets. And successfully, politics is downstream from culture. So when we met 24 months ago, start of 2024, when I was given back my X account, I flew back to the UK because I was in Spain and I gathered a meeting of 12 important individuals in the UK. I say important, they're people who have been attacked, labelled, smeared, deplatformed, censored. Katie Hopkins, Maya Toosey, Cole Benjamin, Lawrence Fox, all these people, we come together to come to an agreement to defend British culture. And when we sat around the table, I had 300,000 on X, but I was banned from Facebook and I was banned from Instagram, I was banned from YouTube. So I can't do this on my own. But Katie Hopkins has 1 million on YouTube. He has 1 million on Facebook. He has 500,000 on TikTok. So when we brought these alternative media together and we agreed to work together, at the click of a button, we have a larger reach than the BBC. We can beat them now. We can fight them working together. We come to 5 values that we agreed on. Not what we disagreed on, but what we agree on. We got it down to we are a Judeo-Christian culture. We need to understand that and we need to get back to those values. We believe in free speech. We need to protect it. We believe Islam is a problem. We need to tell the truth about it. We're against mass immigration from anywhere now. Enough's enough. The numbers, the demographics are changing too much. We're against mass immigration. And we're against LGBTQ indoctrination of school children. This whole gender, non-binary, transgender movement infecting the minds of the youth. We agreed on these 5 principles and we agreed to work together and celebrate our culture and identity. And we went from the 1st of June, 30,000 to the 27th of July, 100,000 to 150,000 to 200,000 to millions. We introduced music, art and culture. And that's what we're celebrating. And we'd love to see a vision for Europe to work with us on this. We want to unite the kingdom, but unite the West. And it's about time that we stood together as proud Europeans. They are destroying Europe. They're attacking France like they're attacking Britain. We need to stand together in France, in Belgium, in Germany, in Spain. Not individual political parties, because outside of politics, politicians will ride the wave of nationalism and patriotism when they see the culture change. We've had a vision in the UK. We're succeeding in that vision. Things are changing. People are having conversations that they just were too scared to have. The change in voting patterns is coming from the cultural revolution. And we are successfully going to build, as we have been, a cultural revolution in Great Britain. And we'd love to see a cultural revolution of Europe when Europeans stood up and defended their culture, defended their identity, and stood together and celebrated it proudly, defiantly on the streets.
But unfortunately, many young Britons and even Europeans see cultural mixing as a success for society. Do you understand that some people fundamentally disagree with your perspective?
What do you mean? They disagree because they think multiculturalism is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those young people just have been indoctrinated, and I don't believe they're the majority. They're not the majority. And again, we're in a race against time because they're in the minds of the youth in the education system and through the schools. They're polluting their minds. They're polluting. If a young man does not understand who he is, if he does not understand his identity, where he's come from, he's not going to fight for it. Yeah, we are rebuilding faith, identity, and that's what we're focused on. And when you have a proud nation, and we're seeing the success of it, men are finding church, men are finding faith, men are finding each other. Men are finding back to where they were 50 years ago in principle and values. And when you're tough and strong, because Christianity is not weak, this whole new Christianity, this pathetic, weak Christianity that's being propagated by the Church of England, there wouldn't still be a Christianity if it was weak like that. So a masculine form of Christianity is growing in strength in Great Britain. And those young men, it's going to be cool to be British again. It's going to be cool to be strong again. It's going to be cool to be a patriot again. Not deemed upon, that frowned upon. Not. It's going to be cool. It is cool. So it's a culture war that we're winning, quite frankly. We're winning that. They've won for 30 years. In 2 years, we're fighting back.
So how do you explain that Western societies have gradually embraced those many policies that you now consider dangerous policies?
Well, we weren't asked, were we? The public were never asked. So from the top down, the European Union, who wish to break down the sense of identity of every nation and the control of every nation, they want to break it down. The United Nations, who are happy to flood our countries with third world migrants, this one world government view, have the biggest funding in the world from the biggest corporations in the world. And many of our democracies have been taken over by the influence of corporations. And we want to regain control and power for individual nations, for individual liberty, and for individual states. And we can do that and influence that in culture.
So in the past and in the present, you often criticize the influence of figures such as George Soros. Why do you believe those kind of figures, they seek to weaken the West?
If they weaken the family, which they have, if they weaken the community, which they have, they can then flood the nation, which they have. There's little to much resistance for their overbearing reach of power and control, which they're doing every day. They're taking our speech, they're taking our rights, they're taking our freedoms. Whilst they're doing that, we're all broken. We're broken as men, we're broken as families, we're weakened. The feminization, indoctrination, the weakening of men, the LGBTQ plus indoctrination is creating a generation of absolute pathetic, weak cowards who will not rise up and fight against them when they want to take their power and take their freedoms. Tough men will. So they don't want tough men. The last thing they want is tough men. They don't want men with values, with principles. They don't want communities that are strong and ready to fight and unite. They're taking that everything. Even the pub is being destroyed in the UK because the pub is where young men go, we talk politics and we unite. I built a movement from the pubs. We built the English Defence League, a street movement on the streets of the UK from the pubs. That every pub we had has gone. Every community figure base we had, every one in every city is gone. They've took them. They want us isolated. They want us alone. They want us fragmented. They want us fringe. They want us feeling like that. But we're not. So we have to rebuild community. We have to, at our first event for Unite the Kingdom, we told the crowds, look to the person next to you, hug them and embrace them. That is your country's man and woman. We need to form a community again. And they fear community. They fear church, real church, not these weak, pathetic churches flying LGBT rainbow flags. But strong Christianity they fear because it gives people back a value system that they've tried to destroy and break. Because if they destroy and break it, they weaken us. If they weaken us, they can control us.
So in the past, you have faced several convictions by the British justice system. Do you understand them, at least in a part, or do you see them as unjustified persecution against you? Since
opening my mouth in 2009 about the biggest scandal in our country's history, you have to understand when I started talking about the rape gangs, which were hidden for 30, 40 years, no one knew about them. Keir Starmer who's now the Prime Minister, he was the leader of the Crown Prosecution Service. He's got dirty hands. He covered this up. Yeah. So if you just look at his example, have you heard of Rotherham? The city of Rotherham with the biggest rape gangs?
Oh, yes.
Well, the man in charge of Rotherham Police the entire time who covered it up is now in charge of counterterrorism. All of these people have risen through the ranks and they all have dirty hands. So when I come along and started exposing their crimes, their cover-ups, of course I faced the full weight of the British establishment. Of course they wanted to shut me up because they've all got dirty hands. So I have faced the full weight of the British state and lawfare. And not just me. Let's look around Europe. Pick a politician. Pick one. Let's look at Marine Le Pen. She's faced untold prosecution, untold targeting through lawfare. Let's look at Matteo Salvini. 6 years of untold prosecution, untold lawfare. Donald Trump. Look at Morton Messerschmitt. Every single politician or political figure who spoke against the European Union, who spoke against mass immigration, has faced relentless lawfare. I've been no different. My prosecutions, none of them are by a jury. Okay? Now, unfortunately for the establishment, due to Elon Musk buying X, the public can see this. My last court case, I faced 18 months in prison. I was sentenced to 18 months for making a documentary. That documentary was watched by 167 million people worldwide. They saw that I told the truth. The monopoly and control of the mainstream media, thankfully, I'm going to thank channels like yourself who have these discussions. Yeah? Thankfully, due to channels like yourselves, in countries now, in a new media, not the old guard, the new guard, thankfully the public can hear these conversations. The public can watch this and make their mind up for themselves. I'm passionate. Don't take my anger, my frustration, my passion sometimes. I'm passionate about my country, my children, my future. I love my country. None of this is done out of hate. The problem that the authorities have is we're not backing down. We won't be beaten into submission. We won't be silenced through court cases. If you want to send us to jail, we'll go to jail. Yeah. And I'll come back out of jail. And if I don't come back out of jail, you make a martyr of us anyway. So for our cause wins. The establishment have no answer to the problems they've created because the fear is gone in the public. The willingness to stand by and be silent. You have to ask this to the French public who are watching this, who are scared. And I understand your fear because I used a fake name when I started my activism. I was scared. I had 7 houses, 2 properties. I didn't want to lose it all. I know what comes from speaking out. Look to Iran. Those Iranian women have took to the streets. They're not scared of being called a name or losing their job. They're getting butchered and massacred, and still they take to the streets. If you're not inspired by the courage shown from these people who are fighting, these are the real feminists, the real women values. They're the only ones in our generation and collective nemesis. Yeah? But they're the only ones in our generation who have really stood up, and we should stand by them, rally behind them, take inspiration from them. Don't be scared of losing your job because it doesn't matter what job you have. You should be scared of your children's future as French people because it's going to disappear. You should be scared of what you're handing down to them.
Controversies have emerged around certain elections in Europe, including the cancellation of a vote in Romania, the last presidential election. Do you believe democracy is under threat in Europe, particularly regarding, of course, freedom of speech?
100%. The democratically elected government in Ukraine were overthrown by an EU-funded militia. If you want to talk about democracy. And then why did they get rid of the man in Romania? Because he wanted to end the war, was it? He didn't want to fund Ukraine, did he? Well, we can't have that. We'll do another election. We'll keep doing elections till we get what we want. Yeah? The European Union don't believe in democracy. The European Union don't. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in free speech. We live in a post-free speech era. They want to take our speech. In fact, speech is the enemy of them. They're tyrants. We have tyrannical leadership, and democracy should be respected and upheld. We saw what happened in the American elections. We saw what happened in the Brazilian elections. There is a huge cabal who wish to control and can keep power against the will of the people. And what happened in your elections in France? They all joined together to keep Le Pen out. The will of the people was to vote for Marine Le Pen. And you conspired to come together, regardless of your value systems or your beliefs, in order to control and prevent the will of the people. Now, if you look at the voting trends, you could prevent it for another 4 years. But hopefully soon, the will of the people in France and in Germany through the AfD, or in France or in Spain through Vox or whichever parties will come to power. And we're in a race against time.
Recently, you've highlighted British groups opposing migrants' departure from French beaches. Do you understand why this action may have shocked some? And in your view, are such forms of activism legitimate?
They're 100% legitimate. France, your government, and I don't blame your government because you probably want rid of these people as well, but you are letting them travel illegally on boats to our country. You're not just letting them, but the British government are letting them. It's actually planned and orchestrated, all of it. Yeah? We could stop this tomorrow. Donald Trump stopped it in a day. He stopped it overnight. They stopped it. This can be stopped. Israel stopped it when they built a wall because Sudanese and Eritreans were taking over their country. They stopped it. So if there's a will to stop it, it can be stopped, but there is no will. So, and we are frustrated. We are frustrated in Great Britain. We're frustrated at the boats full of illegal, undocumented criminals, rapists, jihadists, terrorists. Now, if one case, let me give you one case of someone who come to our country from France. He come to our country, he entered the country and he claimed asylum. He said he was 15 years old. He went to school, put in school with our children. He went to school. Now, when he was in school, he was a sexual deviant towards the girls, but he wasn't kicked out of school. Now, when he got to 21, he stabbed a Royal Marine through the heart and murdered him. And then there was an investigation. And we find out he's not 21, he's 26. Which means when he put him in school at 15, he wasn't 15, he was 21. We then find out that he shot someone dead with an AK-47 in Serbia on his way here. And he's in school with our kids. That's one case. Just one. Now, you know, if we had a ban like Donald Trump had in 2016, a Muslim ban, if you want to call it that, then 26 children would be alive right now. Because the Libyan terrorist who could recite the Quran without looking at it, Salman Abedi, would not have been able to travel to Libya to get bomb-making skills. But we have politicians and pathetic cowards on the left who care more about the feelings than they do about the death of children. Your terrorist attack, Black Lamb Theatre, others, were by refugees. Do you care more about someone from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Eritrea, Somalia, or do you care about French women and children? I know I care about the British. Yeah. And then after that, I care about Europeans. The last on my list is Somalia or Pakistan. It's not my problem. And they're destroying our countries. So, yes, it's legitimate. I'd love to see a government elected which really changes this. It can be changed overnight. It can be changed overnight. We can stop a boat, a Russian boat, hundreds or thousands of miles away, but we can't stop these little boats. We can stop them overnight. There's no will to stop them. They're purposely being brought in. And then they're being placed into hotels. Do you know we've had the rapes, murders and terrorism from migrants in hotels? There's been a stabbing today, I believe, from a migrant in a hotel. Close the hotels, pack the men up and send them back. And we can have this discussion because it's coming anyway. It's going to have to happen because there's going to be such a rise of the people. And it's happening. So you can't put the fire out.
We were talking about America and, of course, the Trump administration. So the Trump administration took a hard line on immigration through ICE, using methods that, as time, shocked public opinions. What is your view of this policy, and do you believe such an approach is justified despite its perceived brutally?
Do you want to know what shocked public opinion? The Black Lamb Theatre massacre, the torture that those individuals faced, the attacks all over Europe is what shocked public opinion. I don't really care, and I don't think most people do, when criminals and rapists and child rapists are being rounded up by ICE. Europe needs an ICE. We need an ICE. We need to get these men, and they need to be detained, and they need to be taken off the streets because they're a threat. As I said, 77% of the rapes last year in Paris were by foreigners that shouldn't be here. They just shouldn't be here. Let's say it out loud. They should not be here. They're of no benefit to France. Somalian immigration does not benefit France. None of these immigrations benefit France. They don't economically benefit. They don't culturally benefit. They don't benefit for safety. So why are we tolerating it? So people seem more shocked about terrorists or criminals being rounded up than they do about the death and murder and rape of French daughters. So, yeah, I'm not bothered about a few people's feelings. I'm bothered about the total stability, the future of our nations. I'm all with Donald Trump. I believe, as I've said, we need mass deportations. We need to not care about people's hurt feelings. No one cares about our feelings. No one cares about the shock we face. Just because we don't burn and riot and torch and blow things up, they don't care.
So, is there a political party in France you feel that it's close to or you could consider supporting?
I've watched Eric Zemmour for years and thought he's brave. I think Badella, when I listen to Badella now, I think they've messed up by removing Le Pen because I think they're going to be in trouble. He could be stronger than her. I don't know every policy of both these political parties, so I don't know. I see where the Patriots stand. I hope that the Front National under Marie Le Pen's niece, I've watched her for years, thinking she's incredible. But I hope that as they get closer to power, they don't try to become part of the establishment that the reason people are supporting them is to bring down. You don't need to start being weak. The public are ready for strength. You don't need to start appeasing and accepting. You don't, which is unfortunately what Reform Party have started to do in the UK. The reason you are growing in number, the reason is because people are fed up of this same cowardice leadership. Do not get into a position of power and betray those voters who voted for you for the reason that they see you as the hope for France. They see you as the hope for mass deportations. They see you as the hope for stopping Islamization.
So what is your view of Nigel Farage and the Reform UK Party? Do they form part of the solution to restoring the country?
They're better than the rest at the minute, but not, unfortunately. Nigel's comments were, by 2050, Islam is so powerful in the UK, we cannot alienate Islam. Well, we can alienate Islam because when you tell the truth about Islam, you're going to alienate it. So we shouldn't be deterred or surrender our beliefs or our speech because we don't want to alienate a hostile, violent community or idea. So Nigel, unfortunately, is right about the power of Islam by 2050. Well, we will stop Islam getting to that position by 2050. So that's it. Nigel is weak. Nigel has surrendered at times, but due to the formation of Restore, Advance, other political parties, Nigel will be forced, unless he wants to lose his vote bank, because now there's other choices. Yeah. So you're going to be forced, Nigel. You either man up and start following through with what people want you to do, or you're going to be replaced by a resurgent Rupert Lowe political party and a power voice.
It's been 4 years that Charles become the new king. Is there any hope?
Charles is not my king.
Okay.
Charles is weak. Charles has surrendered as well to Islam. Charles is a globalist. Charles has, I believe his mother would be turning in her grave.
We were better off with Elizabeth before.
I'll be honest, I feel betrayed by the royal family in general because they should have stood up and spoke out. It's their people being raped and replaced. So we feel betrayed. Okay? I was a loyalist, a monarchist. I love the royal family, but not looking at Prince Charles stand and lie, Prince William stand and lie to us about Islam and the religion of peace. You're lying. You're lying whilst we bear the brunt of those lies. We have to live with this violence. We have to live with these rapes. So Prince Charles seems a fan of Sharia. It's humiliating for us.
So in your view, what is the future for European nations?
The future is chaos, because to change this, there's going to be chaos. But you either have chaos now or you have chaos when you lose. So we're going to have to go through chaos as nations and people. You have to be prepared for that, because to solve this, we need strength leadership, and we need policy change to a level that's going to shock the world. And unfortunately, millions are going to have to leave. And that's just the reality. We either do that now or you try and do it in 15 years when you lose. So it's coming to a head. Be brave, be fearless. It doesn't mean we have to turn to hate against innocent people, but all of the criminals, all of the jihadists, all the people who want the Sharia, all of them have to leave. And we need to start using force, military, and encouragement. So as many of these cultures that are here that don't integrate and assimilate, if it has to be a financial benefit for them to go back, we have to pay them to go back. We can encourage them with large sums of money. Go back to your country and build your nation. Go and do the patriotic thing to your own country, and it will still be in benefit. There's a Dutch study that shows first generation are reliant on the state, second generation are reliant on the state. This is Muslim migration. Third generation are reliant on the state. They don't work. They're not assimilating. It doesn't work. The trial's been done. It does not work. You're working to pay for them. That's it. You, as a white French man or a white French woman, you're not able to see your kids because you're both having to work 2 jobs. The education system's indoctrinating your kids whilst you're at work every hour under the sun, trying to put food on the table and live a life whilst they're at home not working, having 7 children. And you're paying for it. And whilst they're having the 7 children, your children then go to school with their 7 children who are hostile and violent and aggressive towards them because of what they're being taught in the mosques, which are funded by Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Iran. And you're being told to shut up about it. Time to stand up now. It's time. Do not remain silent anymore. Get voting, get political. 28% of the French public didn't vote. Get voting.
So you've regularly traveled to France, and so do you observe similar alarming trends to those that you criticize in the UK?
And not just France, Germany, all these countries, it's all the same. It's the same enemy is attacking us all. The same criminality, the same problems, the same migration, the same Islam. It's all the same. You've got one estate here where 64 people in Paris, one estate where 64 ISIS fighters went to fight. From one estate. Close that estate. They've got to go. What's been allowed to happen here? Well, I stayed in the Muslim quarter here in a hotel with an American gentleman who I was meeting for business, and I met him. And the hotel advised us to be careful if we're with a woman. What have you done, Paris? What have your leaders done to your country? When I walk around your capital, what have they done? It's outrageous. How much more until we stand up? And that's not just, I'm not putting shame on French people because we've been the same. We were scared. But fear cannot be the answer. Cowardice cannot be the answer. Men need to rise, unite, nationally, internationally, gain power, knowing that right now we have friends in the most strongest government in the world who want to keep your culture. They want to protect our culture. Your leaders don't. Macron doesn't. The leaders of the European Union don't. They're your enemy.
So, in your point of view, what is the roots of all those problems?
Globalism from corporations, left-wing movements who wish to see the destruction of Christian communities, of the family. It's an attack coming from every angle. And if you can't even look at and Islam's part of that, it's being brought in as part of that. Maybe they're quite happy with a reliant Islamic community who are quite happy to rely on the state. We're not. We want to succeed. We want to aspire to do well. They want to destroy small business. They want a population of slaves. It's a total attack.
In your point of view, could you portray us what would happen if we don't win the next elections?
We're running out of time. So the next elections are pivotal. I don't think we've got another 8 years. Because in 8 years' time, with the immigration, 384,000 you said last year, 1.2 million in our country, the demographic's going to change so big, so bad that democracy will be used to end democracy. We're already seeing it now with the Green Party in the UK. We're seeing it through elections. We're seeing the independents stand from the Islamic community who are standing for Gaza and Hamas. We're seeing it. Your next elections is so important because you might never win an election again.
So finally, what message would you like to address to the young people in France and across Europe?
Well, my message to the youth would be, don't be afraid. Your country relies on it. Don't be afraid because previous generations weren't. Cannot be afraid. Because if you are afraid and you remain silent, the next generation will never forgive you. You will never be forgiven for allowing your country to be given away, for allowing your children to not experience the same freedoms and culture that you experienced. That doesn't get protected through weakness. It's through strength. It's the only language they understand. So now is the time to stand up, unite, rise up, speak out, join your local activist groups, join the local political parties, speak, get back that sense of community and remain silent no more. Get on the streets. Get on the streets. We hope to have a plan for a European day of uprising, of unity across Europe for European culture. I'd love to see a screen in London go to a screen in Paris to see you in your tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, to come together for Europe, to come together for France, for your culture. Because your culture is going to disappear. Mass immigration is the problem. The mainstream media are the problem. Macron's the problem. And we love you, France, by the way. We voted for Brexit. It was a vote against the European Union, not against Europeans. Okay? We want to unite with all of you.
Well, thank you very much for your time. And we'll love to get you back.
Thank you very much, sir. Cheers. God bless.